Saddle hunters, if you are thinking of replacing some old gear, maybe getting some new gear, or if you just haven't gotten into saddle hunting yet and still are considering it, now is a great time to head over to our friends at tetherednation.com and take advantage of all the gear they have on Deal Alert. I'm sure you can find anything that you need. Probably the best resource as far as like your one-stop shop to get all of your saddle needs taken care of. I, of course, run their Phantom saddle this year, ran the Manus saddle last year, used the Predator platform. I use a bunch of their daisy chain equipment. Basically, everything I use from a saddle perspective is from Tethered. And the reason being is that it's light, it's dependable, and number one, and the first and foremost, is I can trust it with my life. So be sure to head over to tetherednation.com and check out all their gear. Also, this entire fall, they put out a ton of hunts on their YouTube channel. If you're interested in checking out the 3 episodes from my Missouri hunt, you can head over to the Tethered YouTube channel and check those out. This podcast is brought to you by Skull Brew Coffee Company. Skull Brew Coffee roasts premium single origin coffee, guaranteeing to deliver the freshest coffee directly to your doorstep. The kicker, they're 2% for conservation certified and donate 10% of their proceeds back to organizations who support the interests of our hunting community. So go to skullbrewcoffee.com and pick up one of their 3-killer roasts and fuel your hunt and fill more tags with Skull Brew Coffee. Welcome to the Truth from the Stand Deer Hunting Podcast, brought to you by Skull Brew Coffee Company. I'm your host, Clint Campbell, and you're listening to episode number 210. Today, I'm joined by my buddy, the bow hunting fiend, for part 2 of our conversation. We're talking all about late season and loose plans for 2021. So stay tuned. All right. What is up, everyone? Happy Wednesday to you. Hope you are doing well. Hope you are feeling fine. Also, a very Merry Christmas to you and yours, and a Happy New Year. If you don't celebrate those 2 holidays, then happy whatever it is that you celebrate. How's that for covering everything from a PC perspective? Yeah, Christmas holiday is through. We are officially into late season here in Pennsylvania. Everything kind of opened back up the day after Christmas. I just kind of was kicking it and relaxing, and I'm hoping to get back out in the timber here in the next couple of weeks. We'll see what happens there. But I did just recently get a trail camera photo on a cell camera of one of my target bucks from this past year, and I wasn't sure if any of these deer were going to kind of show up in this general area. It's really more set up for pre-rut and rut, and I'm just it's a cell camera. I leave it up year round for right now just to kind of monitor what's going on because this piece was brand new to me. And lo and behold, yesterday, I'm recording this on Sunday, or this upfront on Sunday, so it was Saturday, so it was the day that late season came in. It was after shooting, it was like 8 o'clock or something like that. One of my target bucks came through, and which good sign, he made it through gun season, so that's always a positive. But he came through with a busted up rack. So he was doing a little fighting, and this is one of the deer I haven't seen him probably since the 3rd week of October, at least on this particular camera. So not sure where he went to. Looks like he was there early, and then he's back now late, but was gone pretty much, most of rut, if you will. So that's kind of a little bit interesting. So what that tells me possibly is that he may make that area his home in general, except for those couple weeks where he takes an excursion. So it might be a deer that I can hunt earlier in the season if he makes it through to next year. But going to keep this up front pretty short. Have a cool show for you today. Just a couple housekeeping things that I want to make mention of. One, as you guys know, I've built a travel trailer during the course of last year. I hunted in it in Missouri and a couple out-of-state adventures this past year. There'll be more things coming with that as far as like hunts and scouting trips and stuff like that with it. But what I didn't do when I wrapped it up was I didn't do kind of a wrap up and unveil like the entire thing, like how it's set up and how I use it and where all the different pieces of gear go and what I'm using for power and all those things and basically how I was going to live out of it. So I recently just did a video. It should be coming out Thursday, so tomorrow if you're listening to this on Wednesday, that kind of gives you the recap of like the entire build and how I actually use it and how it functioned overall, and what pieces I might want to update for next year, some things that I might want to change. So head over to the YouTube channel, the Truth from the Stand YouTube channel, give a sub there if you haven't already, but be on the lookout for that video coming out. And then also, if you head to my Instagram page, the Truth from the Stand Instagram page, and go to my link in bio, there is some Truth from the Stand merch, t-shirts, sweatshirts, mugs, a bunch of different stuff in a link within my bio. So go over and check that out as well. So with that, we're going to jump into today's show. As I mentioned before, this is part 2 with my buddy Greg Litzinger. We spent some time together here at the house, recorded for several hours, like 3 hours. So this is the second part of that. And really, what we talk about today is late season. It's a struggle of mine. It seems to be a struggle of Greg's as well. And so we talk about that a little bit and what his plans are for that. We also kind of dive into just, nonchalantly, I guess, or kind of off the cuff, just having good hunting buddies. And how important they are, especially whenever you're struggling and stuff like that. And then we also get into just some loose 2021 plans and what our year looks like for next year. It's never too early to start prepping for that. So with that, I want to thank you all for listening. All right, folks, we are back from our bio break.
Yes.
We're feeling much better now. Felt like my back teeth were floating, man. It was, I ain't gonna lie. Like,
I was waiting for you. I was like, I'm not gonna quit. I was like, I'll wait till Clint calls it.
Dude, what you don't realize is I'm wearing a diaper. So it's like I could have gone all day. I just tried to do you a solid.
This chair's wet for some reason.
Right, it's weird. Anyway, so what we're going to jump into here next is we kind of covered your PA hunts, your early season Jersey hunts. But you're still holding some tags in Jersey, right?
Yeah, Jersey's a state you can kill $5 or $6.
I was going to say, I didn't even think they gave out tags. I thought you could just shoot as many as you see.
Some spots, I think you can.
But so you got a couple tags you're holding yet. What's your plan for late season? Like I lament this all the time because my late season plan always sucks.
Same here. I shoot a lot of does.
Same here.
Yeah. The goal, as it been for like the past decade, is people don't judge me on this one. I've never killed a buck in January. I don't think ever. It's probably been over a decade since I've seen a mature buck actually walking in daylight.
In January.
Yeah. Like we have a long gun season. Like right now in December, our 6-day firearm just concluded, but there's a bunch of doe days, muzzleloader days. And in January, same thing. There's long stretch clips of gun hunting.
Right.
And baiting's legal in Jersey. So these does are just transitioned to bait piles. So it's very difficult to see a buck because it's just, whose bait piles get the freshest bait, basically. And,
right.
And some of the woods, the salt marsh isn't too bad, but it's just a whole nother cold down there. When you're in there, I got some pretty good gear and it's awful. Yeah. It really, and the best time that to go after these bucks when it's coldest, but you're in these little flats. It's just, the wind's blowing so hard, and it's so cold, like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and you're just done. You're just toast. So it's very challenging from a weather standpoint.
Right. What are you prioritizing like during late season for you? Because you always hear like the classic like food, right? And for me, it's like I don't really have significant food sources, right?
Browse.
And at this point of the year, unless you've got like a red oak or something like that that dropped really late and didn't rot at this point, or whatever the case is, you're really kind of limited to whatever kind of browse you have going. Is that what you're kind of prioritizing?
Yes. Like hunting with Johnny, you prioritize browse even during the season. Acorns and crops are king, but before they get to the acorns and crops, they
transition areas. And stuff.
They will just eat. For me, it's sticker bushes. I started like hanging out with Johnny and like double lunger. We were saying, you see how they pick up on what they're eating, feeding, and how they're nipping on things, and so for me, there's a lot of briars in the marsh that some of these deer are just bedding in when they're coming out. You just look for little hair clumps on the sticker bushes, the briars, and look where they're actually nipping on the briars. If they're nipping on the briars, that means they're either feeding in there before they go somewhere else, or they're actually bedding and feeding in these briar patches.
Right.
And I've been running some cameras here these last couple of years, and I really just struggle. It's awful. And I got a great schedule. I'm done at noon every day. I can hunt literally every day, which, my wife's pretty rad. She indulges my, stupidness.
Right.
but I'll wait for like a couple cold streaks, and I'll go out and I'll see does after does after does, and you're like, and there's standing corn or some standing beans that was never cut, and I'll hunt there 4 days in a row and not one buck. And it's the coldest part of December or January. It's just
Right.
nothing. You don't put a camera out there. They're just not even there. Like, how are they not there? There's like standing corn or standing beans still.
Right.
It's just dozens of does, and you're telling me there's not one buck. Like,
Not one.
not one. It's like even the camera's like, hey, maybe it's 2 a.m. or nothing. It's
Really?
like it's so frustrating, and because the deer are there, but the bucks aren't. I mean, so I just go the old doe missions, and I'll just start whacking a bunch of does because I'm freezing, and I just
want to shoot something, get the hell out of the woods. It's crazy too, because man, there's some guys like
I love
Johnny,
the late season.
like Johnny, for example. Dude is a beast during late season. Like for me personally, it's like if I haven't killed a buck by like the second week of November,
just waving the white flag.
but yeah, man, you know what I mean? Like, well, I mean, this year a little bit different because we could hunt a little bit longer in my area, special regs unit. You could hunt, the weeks between statewide,
PA
archery to the beginning of gun season. Because I don't think you've ever been able to do that in this region before. Don't quote me on that. I don't exactly recall. But this year, at least, you could hunt those weeks in between where historically you weren't able to. And that's not statewide because most of the state closes. I think it was this year on like the 15th. They gave us that last Sunday or whatever. And then you are done until rifle season opens. This special regs unit, I could hunt up through. And so I did like 2 different hunts before like my shoulder required me to call it quits. But at that point, it's like if I don't have a tag filled, I'm usually like palms up. Like I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do because I don't have a great late season plan.
And like my job too, it's my busy season. So I don't, from Black Friday to like the 5th of January, I'm pretty much working 5/12s. Right. So my time in the woods is awful. So these last 3 years have been really rough because I put out cameras, but it's like a quick, all right, like half a day, so I put out cameras and I feel like really rushed. This year I was like, man, I'm going to put them out before I start. And I didn't. It's like, so I'll put them out now. I think I'm going to go out one day this week, maybe Wednesday, go hunting. I got a couple cameras, make sure they're still there after gun season and see if anything's on it, and throw a hunt at it. Odds are there's nothing back there, but maybe I'll get lucky and be like, hey, look, there's actually a deer.
A deer. Yeah. I mean, what I've started doing a little bit of, and we were talking about this when you showed up, when you got here today, because I was talking about a scout and a new piece, is what I start doing during late season now more than anything is I start scouting / hunting new areas. I'm hunting, yes, if I find something that I'm like, ooh, yeah, or if I see a buck and I'm like, ooh, let me get into a position, see if I can capitalize, or if I find a good food source, or if I find some tracks near an oak tree that the acorns aren't rotted or whatever, yeah, then I'll set up or whatever. But a lot of times I'm just kind of still hunting, looking at rut sign, essentially. You know what I mean? Going like, okay, mark this on my map, mark this on my map. I need to come back here, maybe hang a camera, this off season and see if I can, or this, summer, see if there's, what's kind of spending time in this area or hang it and just let it during the rut to see if it's like, okay, when does it turn on? Is it actually good? Or are there decent bucks here or whatever? I've started using that to start to make a plan for the following year. I'd much prefer to be out like hunting something. That's the one thing about this water access piece that I have where I don't know that it's going to turn completely off. I mean, I think the crazy movement is going to turn off. It's already has. I mean, they picked back up here the second rut a little bit. Started seeing more movement, but because it is just so stupid thick that there's
plenty of browse. When you get that thick, there's always something to nip on, munch on.
And what we were talking about after we took our bio break, and we were talking about just, I'm always, when I have good buddies like you and just guys that are really good hunters, I always ask like, hey, objectively, like, me pretty well. We've scouted together, you know how I like to hunt, what do I need to work on? Like, what are some areas for improvement? And like, we were talking about how certain times, like, we'll strangle ourselves because we get so rigid in an area because we know it, because we know the information, right? Whereas you were telling me things I already knew but haven't applied, you know what I mean? Which was like, you're like, dude, you go out of state and you either kill deer or you're seeing deer, getting encounters or whatever, because you did go out and you just kind of like get after it and do whatever. You know
No
what I mean?
expectations.
Yeah, and you're just reading the sign, and figuring it out. You were like, you need to kind of marry that with like, having some information about a piece, but not get so locked in to spots because you think that it can only happen here, And so with that advice, I'm going to actually do that and kind of look around this piece and try to hunt around this where I had that big deer at and see if I can't either one, locate him, which may or may not happen. I'm going probably not because I don't think he's around any longer. I think he transitioned back to wherever his summer range was at or wherever his winter range is or whatever. I think he specifically just spends time there during pre-rut and rut, and that's it. But I think I know where like some bucks or he was bedding potentially, and I think I'm going to go hunt around that because I think it'll be good all year for other bucks that are going to make that place their home. And so I'm going to use that time to kind of hunt those areas, and maybe that'll help me be a little less rigid because I feel like if I would have been less rigid this year and been willing to move more to find him, I probably would have found him.
Yeah, I think the one salt marsh area hunt, it closes down early for archery. Like it's permits are like 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah, it closes down 2 weeks for gun season, and gun season's real light because they had some EHD a few years ago. I'm on a spot. I've been looking at the map. I'm like, this is probably a good spot because I kind of like write it off after the rut. I'm like, I'm not hunting down there.
Right.
Yeah, it's a far drive. It's shitty weather usually, but there's no pressure. It's like, you know what? I want to go give that, a good once over because I've never really gone. I've scouted in like February or March, but never really hunted in January or gave it an actual thought. And like I said, hunting with Johnny and the browse. I'm like, there's plenty of little browse on these islands. There's some sticker bushes. I mean, they'll eat anything green, for the most part. And some spots got some oaks. I'm like, there's got to be some bucks hanging out there because, they had pretty much 6 weeks of very little hunting pressure,
Right.
Because you got the 6-day firearms and they're a doe-day muzzler, but they're real short.
Right.
So the hunting pressure is probably light, I would think,
Right.
And unless you got some goose hunters or whatever, but they're not really coming in the woods,
Nah, I mean, you'd only be bothered with those if you were near like a cut cornfield somewhere or like some water.
I'm going to give that a whirl looking for food, and maybe I can, matter of fact, where I found that big shed last year, that's one of those spots where it's like, you know what, he was in there, and I talked to my buddy Todd, UP bow hunter, and he was like, if there's guys running dogs for rabbits, if you hate your dog, you'll send them into giant sticker briars for rabbits.
Right.
He goes, most guys don't hate their dogs. And it got me thinking, I'm like, that's probably why that buck was in there. It's off the field edges, it's halfway between, some islands. Why go all the way to an island where there's no food when I can just hang out right here, and I got a little bit of browse. There's some oaks, a couple of yards away, but most guys really won't send their dogs in there, I've never seen guys and their dogs in there. I know they hunt the shit out across the street, but I'm like, maybe that's what he's doing, trying to find those small little spots where a buck might hang out.
Right. Well, the fact that you found the hammer shed in there speaks to the fact that like he was in there during super late season.
And that stuff, I don't even know how he's in there. Like, it is so bad. I literally crawl on my hands and knees and I am bleeding. Like when I leave there, even with like long sleeves on, like it's got my neck, like it's awful.
Hit the jugular.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like how I even got in there with that shed is like, how? It's like, it's just a wall of briars, and it's unreal, but I'm like, that's why he's probably there, He's got browse, he's got some food, there's good cover, great cover,
Right.
I don't know how he's getting out of there if something's coming at him.
He's just spider webbed in there. He's just,
pretty much.
He gave up on life when he went in there. He's like, hey, I'm either living or dying in here because I ain't leaving until this thing comes off my head. You know what I mean? So that's funny, man. Yeah, I don't know, man.
I really want to kill. I've killed deer in like last 2 years. This year killed a really good buck in November. So I've killed them September, October, November. When I used to gun hunt, killed one in December. It's like January is still holding strong. It's the last stronghold. Like, no.
Not happening. I'm just hoping I can actually get out for late season. But I'm hoping my shoulder starts to square up to where I can actually
buy a lighter bow.
I dropped the poundage on this one a little bit. Like,
no, a lighter mass.
Oh, a lighter mass. Okay, yeah, gotcha. Yeah, I don't know, man. I already changed bows once this year. I don't want to do it again.
Carbon fiber bow. That's what I bought. It's been night and day difference.
Really?
Oh yeah.
What are you shooting again?
The Carbon Icon.
Yeah.
It's shoots well at 70.
Yeah, I mean,
And it's super light. Like it's cold. Like I had an old Diamond Carbon when when I worked at Cabela's. One came in that was quote unquote blown up. It wasn't put in the barn cave. I was like, oh, $100, sure, I'll buy it.
Right.
Nothing wrong with it. And that was great. I shot at winter bow one year, killed like 3 does, and just don't get cold. Granted, it's not a high end, doesn't have latest and greatest technology in it.
Right.
It's carbon, it's light, and it doesn't really get super cold.
Right.
And
it kills.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's the criteria for a bow.
Exactly.
It
is it what Hoyt or PSE has? No, but it's 3.2 pounds, and I weigh it down with the weight I want.
Right.
Because most bows, if a bow's over 4 pounds, I don't want nothing to do with it. By the time I put my accessories, quiver, and I'm looking at 6 or 7 pounds. I ain't got time for that.
Right.
It's just Montana. That bow was great. Carried around, it was like super light. Like yes, it's like nothing to it.
I've always been intrigued by those gearhead bows.
Yeah,
just for that reason alone. Like they're so small, so light.
They shoot good. They're wide. They're super stable.
Yeah, I shot one at where was it? Harrisburg the one year. I shot one. Funny story about that I was standing there. The guy was there was a couple dudes standing in front of me, and the guy that works for Gearhead was going over like the specs with them or whatever. Hey, this is like the blah blah blah. This axle to axle, draw length. Blah, 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 just the guys had questions or whatever. And so I was just listening to him because I had read about him online and stuff like that. I'd never shot one at that point, and I was like, I'll go over and shoot this. So there's like an older fellow there that the guy's talking to about it. And if you've ever been to the Harrisburg show, it's like there's a lot of window shoppers.
Yes.
At Harrisburg. Like they come around, they touch all the stuff, they ain't buying shit. Yeah. This guy you could tell wasn't buying anything. Yeah. I mean, nothing for nothing. He was an older fella, you know what I mean?
He's worth $7.2 million,
Might have been, you know what I mean? But he didn't get that by buying $2,000 bows either, you know what I mean? So
true.
So chances of that dude, like there was a better chance he was going to go over to like the booth over and buy a crossbow than he was going to buy that gearhead bow.
So are you judging somebody on their appearance, Clint?
I am always. I go through life judging on appearance and working off of stereotypes. Like that's
look at me,
look at me now. I have a saying: people don't get stereotypes because they fall outside the norm.
Yeah.
They get them because there is a very identifiable pattern that people latch on to. No, it's funny. I have a story for that too, but we won't go there today. No, so the guy gives him the spiel and he says, and we're getting way off the topic here, but the guy gives him the spiel and he's like, oh, and the guy walks away and puts the bow down, and they're all sitting there where you can pick up the bows at Harris. If for anyone who's never been there, like it's
very
the biggest
feeling.
Yeah, it's the biggest consumer show, outdoor consumer show in the country, right? It's like something close to like 250,000 people pass through
in the
there.
world?
Well, it possibly could be in the world because I don't imagine there'd be bigger ones somewhere else. But I know for sure in the U.S. it's the biggest consumer show, outdoor consumer show. And so every brand is there. They're selling their stuff. You know what I mean? You can go and get a bunch of really good discounts. It's not happening this year because of the pandemic. So, a lot. So if you're selling bows, people are like picking up bows and there's a range you can go and shoot them. Right. And so if you want to legit pull it back, you go to the range and they've got one set up for you and there's a guy there. They clip you in, and you can pull it back and whatever. So the guy hands the guy the bow to look at. He turns his back for like 1 second to talk to someone else. And I'm watching because I was working the Exodus booth. And I'm watching this guy grab the bow with fingers, right? And he starts like pulling on, he's struggling to get it back, right? And I'm like, oh, this is going to be bad. Yeah. And he can't hardly get it back. And he finally gets it back. I mean, I'm sure it's hurting his fingers, right? He's getting it back and all of a sudden you just hear, bam! Like he completely lets it go, dry fires the bow in front of like the entire group of people. Like the guy that works at Gearhead about crapped himself, you know what I mean? Blows this $2,000 bow up. Was amazing. And then I went and shot one and it shot really good.
Yeah. I didn't shoot that one.
I didn't shoot that one, but I ended up shooting in string angle is a little weird.
Yeah.
Not going to lie.
They have some ones that are like 32 inches.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I think I shot the
micros are like 18. That's
I think that's the
20.
one I think I shot the 20 is what I shot. Cause I think 20 inches someone out there might know better than me. And if you do, like message me and tell me, cause I'm just genuinely curious about this answer. But I think in Pennsylvania, you can't shoot a bow that is shorter than like 20 inches axle to axle or something like that.
It's possible.
I feel like certain states have regulations on the length of bow
If
axle to
there's
axle.
one, PA would have it. If there was a state that had it,
You can only shoot.
PA would
You
be
can
the
only
state.
shoot a 20-inch or smaller axle bow on Tuesdays.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean?
Every third Sunday, you're good.
Yeah. So I wouldn't doubt it, man. Anyway, man, let's talk a little bit now about next year. What your plans are for next year. Like, cause knowing that we both love late season as much as we do and have like premium success during late season.
It's
exciting. I just mentioned I start turning the page, not fully. If I can get out the hunt, I'm going to, and I'm going to try to kill something. I just don't know if that's going to be the case, but I do honestly start turning the page and start thinking about next year and making plans and start, figuring out what I'm going to do. Not just from like a scout some new areas, scout hunt, but also even just looking at places of like, okay, I want to go scout this spot because I've never been here. And then I actually even start looking at other states and start figuring out what that might even start to look like too. So what's your plan for next year loosely?
Same as every year.
Yeah.
Try and find big deer and kill them following fall and not irritate my wife to the point I can't go out come fall.
Right.
Now, I said I'm actually being found man now. Like it's some of my spots in the salt marsh that are like way out there, and I got to take the canoe, ride the tide out. I'm probably going to shelve them for a year or two, and hunt a little closer to home because even just to scout it and just stuff like it's tough. Like my wife's homeschooling the kid. Like we don't know this. We'll be doing this next year. Like who knows? So there's a couple. I'm gonna go back to what's called hunting thunder gut. I'm gonna poke in there a little bit. It's big wood setting ish. It's the swamps and whatnot, laurels, but really dive into that area again because it's literally 10 minutes from my house.
Right.
If I got cameras, I can check a dozen cameras. There's a few cart roads and stuff like that. I can ride my bike. I can cover a lot of ground fast.
Right.
The pressure's insane. I mean, I killed my biggest deer out of there. I've killed quite a few deer out of there, and my buddy's killed some. There's some really nice deer. But this is close. And I just feel from a family obligation standpoint.
Yeah.
When I get out of the woods, like my wife's like, "What time to be home?" And even like in the early season, like I gotta be at work at 4:00 in the morning. And my salt marsh spots, I mean, I'm 30, 40 minutes away.
Right.
It's one way. So I'm getting out of the woods at 8 when it gets dark or 7:30, and I'm half hour deep. Riding like I can't really hunt it, until later in the season anyway, because when the thing shifts. So I'm trying to maximize my time in the woods. So I'm going to spend some time closer to home, even a few of the smaller pieces. Piece I used to hunt a lot. I kind of got away from. I'll still run some cameras in the marsh, and check it out this year because this year was just off. I don't know if the deer were killed during gun season or EHD or what, but
right.
I know where they are. I know what ditches they cross, so I'll go still. Give it a whirl next year, but I don't know if I'm going to, like this year I really went fully in on them and it was like, oh.
Right. Burn. Yeah. A swing and a miss.
Yeah. And I know like a Thunder Gut, like what piques my interest with Thunder Gut again, I kind of shits and giggles. I went out there right before, what's that Monday before Thanksgiving. And I kind of set up in a spot. I'm like, there's, a little creek. I'll just go up this creek bed and get set up. I was like walking in, right at dark, scout my way right at daybreak, doing the old Johnny Stewart special, and just looking for sign. And I was going to sit from daybreak to 2 or whatever, and end up setting up. I see this giant laurel patch. I get set up, and then there's this giant rub right in front of me. I start looking, and it's this laurel patch that kind of like tapers down a little bit, like 40 yards or 50 yards wide, and it kind of gets real big. It's almost like a little funnel.
Right.
It's like, is that a funnel? I'm looking, I'm only like 10 foot off the ground. Like I'm literally in the laurels. I'm like, this looks like a funnel. So I get down and it's 5 foot tall. Like it's really thick with some of that stuff is. And I'm like, so I go across and I think I posted a thing on Instagram. Like that rub is like, there's time marks up at my, nipple height. So it's like,
you get high nipples too.
Yeah. No. Yes, I do. except the breast surgery I had years ago.
Right, right, right.
But and then I found out like a few more, and they're just coming through this laurel patch because it's pretty much it's open timber. Open timber is like I call them hidden funnels. It's like
Right.
it's you look on a map, you won't see it.
Yeah.
You literally have to boots on the ground. It's like and there's like random patches, and everybody's like hunting out this way, and there's a swamp here, and big rub line along the swamp. And I'm like, "Yeah, all right. And now the era of cameras, I can put cameras out
And verify what's going
yeah.
on.
But
Yeah.
I think I can get more time in the woods. It's closer to home, and it's just another added challenge because it's a really difficult piece to hunt. Like,
Right.
I don't even want to make it harder than I need to do already, but I just want to hunt more and drive less. Save my
Right.
drive time for PA.
Right.
Because I was off for 3 weeks this year hunting pretty much straight, and it's stressful for my wife.
Yeah.
Because I'm just not home.
Yeah.
And
Up at dark, back at dark,
yeah,
sleeping.
and this year too, like hunting at home, like I want to save my weeks, go away like I did to Montana. I did a week in PA. Like I don't know how I'm still married,
Right.
but when I hunt at home, I can't do all day sits. I
Mhm.
literally have to be selective because I don't feel comfortable because I go away a lot. I don't feel comfortable with my wife having to do all that work.
Right.
I don't know. Uh,
Yeah.
If you're listening, hun, huh?
Right.
Huh? But it's tough for me because she'll text me, the kids and that or Colette, or stuff. It's like I feel like I should be there more. So I'm gonna spend more time just hunting half a days at home.
Yeah, no, I get that, man. Because I mean, look, my daughter's 12, she'll be 13 this September. So she's past that point of like needing, way
It's
past
like,
the
"Dad,
point
get
of
away
like
from me."
needing needing constant help. But it's still, I totally get what you're saying. Like it weighs on me, especially like whenever like every Saturday I'm
Yeah.
hunting all day every day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Knowing that it's like the one day that I have, because Sunday for us, it's like if you have a family and stuff like that,
Yeah.
Sunday becomes like preparing everything for the week. You know what I mean? To be at work, school, whatever, and so it's really just kind of getting stuff done
Well,
to
that's
get
because
ready.
you guys can't hunt on Sunday.
Or I would be hunting Sunday. Yes, you are correct. So so I totally get what you're saying, to where it's like, even though she doesn't need like help with Anna or whatever, it's one of those things where I'm just missing that time with her.
Yes.
You know what I
And
mean? Of like being around her and hanging out and doing whatever. And so I kind of feel the same way. That, and I leave for multiple weeks at a time as well.
Yeah.
Where it's like she's home, by themselves and stuff like that. And I'm not here to help out with
I'm
anything.
here to annoy them.
Yeah, exactly. But I totally get what you're saying with the drive time too, because that was one of the other things where that really good deer was at. Like that for me is from where I live specifically is like 30 to 40-minute drive depending, and then a 15-minute kayak ride in, and then the hike once I get out of the kayak is only like 5 minutes. You know what I mean? But it's like 25 minutes total. Like, I mean, if you add up like getting the kayak out, and you know what I mean, and like getting it loaded and me in the water or whatever, it's like, yeah, it's a 35-minute ordeal just to get the kayak in the water into the spot.
Yeah. Another thing I plan on doing is my buddy UP bow hunter there, and we talked about going to the Pine Barrens, and I hunted Pine Barrens for years. I've lost a big deer and I've missed like 2 big deer. It's a tough area to hunt, like a lot of gun clubs, and we've been like bouncing the idea around. And his buddy is a good filmer, travels around. He's filmed for TV shows a few times, and we might be working on a piney project, we call it,
Right?
Because there's a lot of history in the Pine Barrens. If anybody's from New Jersey, the hunting clubs, hunting traditions, fishing. It's very hunting's it's big there. They drive,
Right.
pot hunters, so the hunting, draw there is extreme. Every you're there, you hunt it. 'Cause I live there. I lived all around the hunted there. Everybody takes a week shotgun off. It's like
Right.
like PA tradition. Like you just do
There's
it.
hunting heritage. That's
Yes, and so we've been bouncing an idea around. Both of us want to target, mature buck out of Pine Barrens, and for me, that will literally be the last area in New Jersey that I haven't killed a mature buck in.
Really?
The mountains, salt marsh. So it's like literally like I call them, because you got the mountains, you got the urban I've done, big woods I've done, salt marsh I've done, swamp I've done basically. Yeah, I call it like the big five. It's our little big
Right.
five. So That's one thing I would like to have because deer are significantly smaller body wise. There's just not a lot of food. In
Right.
scrub oaks, and they'll get some crazy looking antlers because it's the genetics are you don't get that swooping curved beam. Usually it's kind of go up. It's weird looking, but they'll
Right.
get big. But they got like German shepherds with horns is what a lot of people call them. Like 120, 140 pound deer is big,
Oh wow.
but it
Nice.
have 120 inches of antlers. So it's like,
It looks
just
huge.
yeah, it's so
Proportionally.
weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this we want to do it this year, but with the whole Rona bullshit, so
Yeah,
it's kind of
kinda
just shelve that,
Yeah.
you know.
Put a kink in your works.
And I think Delaware, I'm gonna kill velvet deer. Actually, I do have a lot of plans. Shit,
You
I
do
don't
have a
think
lot. I was
about
gonna
it.
say you were like, I don't really have any plans. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, as we go,
Yeah.
it's like there's a lot of
But-
plans.
because Delaware's got a early season like September 2nd. I think it opens the 1st or 2nd,
Right.
and kill velvet deer would be neat
Yeah. That's something I would like to do.
because like southern Delaware, there's a lot of big tracts of timber. That's a lot of public in Delaware,
Mhm.
but the chiggers are awful.
Oh yeah.
But if you can shoot 120, 130 inch deer in velvet, I'll take a few big bug bites.
Right. Right. Yeah. I I would like to find. I mean, there's just not a lot close to my house to like even shorten my drive. That's
Yeah.
worth hunting. Put it
Yeah.
that way. I've checked out most everything. I'm going to expand to some new spots this year, which is why I kind of have the trailer so I can go
Yeah.
out. And the hardest part for me was trying to go out and scout somewhere a little further away, even just locally, even if it's just only an hour or 2 hours away from me or whatever. I don't want to go out and like have to drive there and scout all day and then come home and you only get one day to scout, right? It's like I want to be able to scout multiple so I can go make 2 trips and kind of know what I need to know, hang cameras and go back to hunt it. And so that's what I'm going to do this year. I've kind of looked at 2 particular areas. And
Where would they be? What's their GPS coordinates?
yeah, those would be in southern Pennsylvania and southwest Pennsylvania. Yeah, so I have some intel on the one spot, and I actually have a buddy who I'm going to have on the show here at some point who's not too awful far from where those are at, and that's kind of I've had 2 kind of confirmations or point of validation to know that there's good deer in these areas of people who have hunted it, scouted it in the past. Not the exact spot that I'm going, but just the general region. So I know good hunting is possible in that spot. So that's kind of my plan, at least for PA, like loosely this year. We'll talk about that stuff more as we get closer to the true off season, and then definitely going to Kansas this year. That's like should be
Pulling a tag this year.
Yeah, I bought a point last year, and you
Oh, yeah.
basically you have an 80% chance to
Yeah.
draw. I think even when you don't have a point.
Yeah.
So if you have a point, I bought one last year because I knew for sure I wanted to go to Kansas this year. So I just bought a point last year, and I'll be able to draw this year. I just don't know where I'm going yet. Like I know it's going to be public.
What time of year?
Don't 100% know. Probably going to go around that same rut time period. I would like to
So
go.
when you kill your big deer around here, you're gonna just wipe that off the board.
What's that?
The time you should kill your big deer around here, you're just gonna wipe that off the board. Like, you know what?
Yeah,
This
I know
takes-
that's the problem. Well, what I might end up doing is timing it out just a little bit differently. Like, so this is the thing, and if you listen to this podcast for any length of time, like you'll probably already know this about me, but like I like to travel and hunt, not just because I like to try to go find, even, better deer than what we have around here or whatever, but I also like just learning a new spot, and I don't know anything about Kansas. So I don't even know, historically, like what the best dates would be to even be there. You always know, like, beginning of November. Yes, I get it, but we know regionally in specific areas, right? Things kind of pop off at different times and stuff like that.
The Spartan Forge will come into play.
Right. Yeah. Because he's looking at the data that's telling you like when they're really moving and stuff like that. So it'll be in November sometime. What I'm hoping is that I can locate an area that I feel really good about maybe going the 2nd and 3rd week in November. I don't know when their gun season comes in either. So it's like I'm trying to avoid that,
a couple of days prior, people be scouting, doing all that stuff.
Exactly. Because what I would like to do is be able to hunt around here that
Prime time.
well, like the last 3 days of October, essentially.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I feel like that's what the cameras kind of told me this year.
That's, the whole Northeast, that's just a great time to be in the woods.
Yeah.
The last 3 days of October and the first 2 days of November is usually money
And that was exactly what my cameras told me this year, like on the new spots.
as you're driving to Missouri.
Oh, 100%. I was sitting here working actually, like, knowing that I couldn't go hunt, and my phone on like the 30th and the 31st was just because it was a cell camera that I had placed. It was just blowing up like shooter after shooter. I mean, that one I already said at the beginning passed through multiple times over the course of 2 days, but there were like 2 or 3 other shooters that I had seen at different moments through the year that showed up during that time frame too.
Yeah, that's because John and I talked about, because the last couple of years his camera intel out there, and the last 3 days of October has been good. So I might head out to PA, because Halloween's on Sunday, so I can't hunt on Sunday. So I'm like, I can just leave. I hunt in 3 days, and then come home, spend some time with the old lady, and then come back like November 5th.
Yeah,
for like 4 days, because like I said, there's those little windows, those 2 or 3 day windows.
Yeah.
And that's where, like I said, good intel, years of intels, and what he's seeing, what I'm seeing, it makes planning your hunt a little bit easier. Cause like, all right, traditionally, that 4 day window, well, all right, odds are that 4 days is going to be better than the 2 days prior. I'm like, well, the 2 days I can spend with the wife, the old lady, do family stuff, be the family man, be the hero, go kill big buck, come back, be the hero again.
Right. Just being the hero, man. So those are my plans. I don't know.
Plus, killing a buck coming into a scrape, especially a big buck, is probably one of the coolest things.
Yeah.
That you could do. Have them work it over, have them come into it. It's like coming into their bed when there's just certain things you're like, I'm right here. The scrape's right there. This is what they're going to do.
It's just so cool watch. I mean, even if it's not a big one, like I've had the opportunity to watch. Last year, I watched a pretty good one work a scrape, actually in Pennsylvania, and then this year, that primary scrape that I hunted with that water access, like I had a young buck walk in. I mean, read the script, and then
awesome,
and then
and just
I mean, it's like it was just wrong deer, perfect setup, just wrong deer, and then the next day, on a Sunday, the big one did exactly what that one did in front of me, so it's just one of those things. But those are my plans for next year. Kansas for sure, PA for sure. Going to do some figuring out in Pennsylvania and find some new spots. And
you come to Southern Delaware with us.
Yeah, man, I totally will, man. I have no problem doing it. I'm always looking for doing cool hunts like that, and being able to kind of just jump out close to home and being able to do stuff close.
It's like
is interesting to me.
It's from my house. It's about 2 hours. It's and I live. It's
probably about the same for me, because
an hour and 30 minutes from the bridge area. So you can probably make it in 2 hours. And it's just a lot of ground, a lot of timber tracks. The state does a lot of work with forestry and whatnot. There's some fields, there's some swamp, there's a little bit of everything.
My uncle used to hunt Delaware. Well, he was from Delaware, and then his buddy, I think his name was Jimmy. I haven't talked to
Jimmy.
Yeah, I mean, I met Jimmy whenever I was like 13. He used to come up and hunt out of our PA hunting camp with my uncle and my dad and I. That's how I met him. But my uncle used to live in Delaware and used to always go back and hunt with his buddy, and then his buddy would come to PA and hunt or whatever. And they killed great deer in
There's
Delaware.
A few hammers, in certain counties. It's significantly that they're just. You look at the record books. It's like there's certain counties. You're like,
well, it's kind of like when you get down around that area of the Eastern Shore in Maryland, right? It's like if someone, because I've heard people say this, that have
there's
hunted
there's a 50-mile stretch where it's like, this is really good deer coming out of there,
Well, yeah, it's like there's been some dudes that I've talked to at like trade shows and stuff like that who have hunted that area that were from the Midwest, and they were like, if I fell asleep on an airplane and someone dropped me off there and I woke up, I would swear I was in Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because it's very, like, the setup is very similar. Is what I've heard. I've not been there, so I can't speak from firsthand. But
my one taxidermist I was using was in Chesterton. So you're driving in certain parts of Maryland, and I remember like dropping my deer off. And I'm like, oh, look at my 125. Woo! And the guy's like, oh, this guy just shot this down the road. It was like a 158-inch 8-pointer with like beer can mass. And you're like, it doesn't look
mine doesn't look like that.
And it's like, wow. And the size of it's just massive. There's just corn fed.
Yep.
They got age, genetics, and food.
Well, yeah, it's like, and I've looked online, like trying to find public around there. There ain't a stitch of public around there. It's all leased up, and it's all private or leased up and stuff like that. Because I was like, man, if I can even just find like a little cranny, nook or cranny of like a 20-acre, a couple 20-acre parcels of public, or borough land that's allowed to hunt or whatever.
The Eastern Shore as a kid, they used to, the Mid-Atlantic Fish and Game, some of these deer that they were pumping out in the 90s and early 2000s were just like, that's like 2 hours from my house, and it's
Right.
like, but trying to get access to these things. And
Yeah.
I know people that have money that travel all the world hunting. They try to get in some of these places because there's like big leases, but it's
Yeah.
big money,
Yeah.
like that's just, different type of money. That's a different class of people that have access to some of them tracks. Like, yeah, you can hunt it, but you better have something to give that farmer, because them farmers usually like the Midwest, Iowa, they're millionaires. So it's like, I don't need your $10,000 lease.
Right.
I have a Lamborghini in my back garage
Right.
kind of mentality.
Well, that and too, it's like the thing a little bit different from like, East Coast to like
Yeah.
Midwest as far as like leasing and stuff like that. When you get into like, the Eastern Shore area, and I don't know this from experience, I'm just guessing, right? Like you're talking about Washington D.C. type money, you know what I mean? Like people who have that type of money. So it changes. Like the person who may not be willing to drive and go to Illinois or Iowa because they can only draw every so often. Will lease a place there because, I can go hunt it every year and hunt big deer, and I work for X, Y, and Z lobbying company or a lobbyist group, in DC and make ridiculous money, and so I'm going to lease up 5 farms down here or whatever. It's just a little the money sway is a little bit different. I think
it's insane, like the amount of deer, the big deer that come out of there. Like I said, it's Midwest. You look at him like, that's Midwest. Nope.
Mhm.
And the guy has them. He's like, where's that one from? I'm like, Iowa. It's like, nope. They're all from around here. You're like, oh, all right. I guess I failed that test.
Right. Nice, man. Well, we've been rolling here for a good while. I got one more thing to toss out to you.
Geez. He's just writing stuff down in the middle of this.
Oh yeah. No, this will be a good one, man. Because this will be a good one. You should piss off a lot of people with this.
Geez.
No. I got this. I want to give credit where credit's due, and I don't know if Chad and those guys originated this, but they asked it to me whenever I was on a podcast, on the Exodus podcast, however many months ago it was. It might even been around. No, it wasn't ATA. It was when we were out scouting this past winter together. They asked me this question. I thought it was interesting, and I like asking people this question because I'm always curious what their answers are, and my answer always changes. Like it always is kind of shifting. So the thing is like, you know how like if you're, they'll do those hypothetical basketball teams where it's like you're going to play a 3-on-3 tournament, and you could have any 3 basketball players, in the world on your 3-on-3 tournament. Who would those 3 basketball players be, right? They switched it up. And usually when you're thinking about basketball, you're thinking about, well, how do they fit together? It's like, I'm going to want a point guard to run the point to like distribute, right? And I'm going to want a guy who's like a really good shooting guard.
I don't know how basketball works. So.
Okay. Anyway, different functions.
Yes.
People have different functions on the team, right? Different jobs or things they do well, right? To complement one another.
Shoot the ball.
Right. So the same question, but for hunting. If you were entering a 3-on-3 tournament, right? Or you had to build the ultimate 3-person hunting team for you to win a stupid amount of money, right? What 3 hunters would you put on your team?
What property? What type of?
Well, we're going public, and
we're going public. Where? We're going Midwest.
So it doesn't
Northeast,
matter.
Maine, Canada.
Doesn't matter. You have to put 3 people on a team that you would feel confident that could go on public land, no matter what the state is, and could kill deer. Who would those 3 people be?
You should have told me about this months ago so I can think this out.
No, it's better on the spot. Man.
This is awful. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Is it myself included in 3 or 3 plus me?
It could be 3 plus you, or it could be I when I did it, I just did 3 people, not me, not included. So I'm the GM. I'm trying to build the team. These are the 3 people I would feel most confident in that would be successful.
That's a tough one because so many different types of terrain. Who's killed deer in numerous terrains? I'd have to pick Johnny because he's killed whoppers in numerous states in different types of areas and all throughout the year. So Johnny would be on there. I guess I'd probably pick double longer, Ricky.
Mm-hmm.
And a third for big deer.
And it doesn't have to be anybody. It doesn't have to be people that you know. It can be anybody. Known, not known, famous, not famous.
It's I'd probably, yeah. I mean, as far as people that I've actually hunted with that I've known, I'm going to go with people that I've actually spent time in the woods with.
Okay.
Because I'd actually hunted with. It'd be this guy, John Massey. I used to work with him in Delaware. He's a trapper, really good woodsman. You
Yeah.
know, there's three woodsmen, all three of those guys. Um, I don't know how well they get together. That's the three getting together.
They might just get drunk and fight. Like,
But as far as the guys that have killed some really good deer, and before technology and all
Mhm.
that kind of thing took over, and that I've actually spent time with,
right.
because hypothetically saying like I'd pick somebody I don't even know, because if
Mhm.
we got to hunt like as a team, we got to mesh. I know I
Right.
mesh all three of those guys.
Right.
And they've killed deer I wish that I could kill. Basically, I look at those guys, I'm like, wow, you kill. And
Right.
people say I kill big deer. No, those three guys kill big deer. As
Right.
we're going for, like,
Right.
massive old deer.
Right.
Those guys kill some deer.
Get
It's
it
like,
done.
wow, you got, oh, yeah.
Right. So my three, and it's always kind of
Yeah.
changing. My three was Andy May, because that dude just kills.
He's not fair. That doesn't count.
He's like a robot.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't. It's
Look how
a
deer that.
right. Yeah. Exactly. So mine was Andy May, Joe Rentmeester.
He's a killer.
He's a killer, and the third one was Zach Farrenbaugh. If I had to put three people and say I need deer dead, no matter where I send them, I was like, those were the three that I would pick. It'd be interesting. Like, I like the perspective, the spin you put on it, though. Like, three people that I've spent time with.
Yes.
Like, that would be.
Because they say, and like I said, it's like such a loaded question, because there's so many people I would love to hunt with,
Yeah.
but actually, like, I feel more comfortable saying with guys I've actually spent time with in the woods,
Yeah.
and I know they could definitely, get it done.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, I was thinking about that, and the funny thing is like, I spend.
And sorry if I didn't say anybody's name, you're offended.
Right,
I haven't really hunted with that many people in my life.
Well, that's exactly where I was going to go. It's like I don't. There's only a handful of people that I I don't want to say willing, but like to spend time with, or would spend time with in the woods, because that to me is like, I'm trying to get shit done usually when I'm in the woods, and and I don't often like to be with other people, because I don't want to have to acquiesce to what they want to do, or what I just want to go do what I think I need to get to do in order to have whatever outcome I think want to have,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I don't want to say a lone wolf, but I just prefer to be alone most of the time. I loved hunting with Zach this year. Whenever he had with a camera, I would have that dude with me like every day, like on a hunt, like great dude. But just as far as like, I haven't hunted and spent enough time with enough people in the woods. That group is very small.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I've spent time with you in the woods scouting. I've spent a ton of time with Chad in the woods. And then outside of like those two people.
And it got me thinking now too,
because it's like, it would probably be like Zach, because I've not really ever hunted with anybody else, and I spent 7 days with him, which is probably longer than I've spent with anybody in the woods other than like my dad.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Like if I had to, because it's different. I guess like thinking back now, the guys I in my early 20s, late teens, I hung with a few guys when I lived in Maysland, and like this guy Dominic, he's my cousin Mike's friend. That dude was on another level as far as the deer. Like, he's just one of the guys that just got it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he didn't know, like, you scout with him, and you're just like, as a kid, it was like, oh, I learned so much from him, and like, even like with my dad, like, learned so much from my dad. And I was very fortunate enough to, like, different parts of my life to be around guys that were like, wow. And it's like, it's neat. Like, this old guy that used to live in the town, he was so well versed on, we used to go out in the woods. I was 17 or whatever. He would like pick something up. He's like, this is blah, 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 blah. Some weird scientific name. He goes, deer will eat this in October, and like throw it to the ground. You're like, it's a fucking leaf. Like, I don't know. But like, he was because he was old hillbilly. Like he, those times where he fished and hunted to fucking survive. Right. So he was like operated a level of like, if I don't kill something, I die mentality.
I need this to
and then
live.
you're like, And he goes, "Oh, you can eat that. You can make tea out of this." And he was very very knowledgeable of the
Almost
woods.
like, indigenous.
Yeah,
Right.
and not knowing what hindsight's 2020, it would have been like, all right, what is this? And write shit down, like really get into that. 'Cause it's
Right.
like, but he was just like a whole nother level.
It's like he was like an encyclopedia of
Mhm.
like everything that was in the woods and how it could be
Yeah.
used,
Yeah.
It's like, I would love to go hunt with Johnny and scout with Johnny. I mean, and I should just go do it. I mean, he invites me, to go, and it's like schedules just never match up or whatever. Or when we're in,
He says you can't hang with him anyway.
I probably can't, dude. I ain't gonna lie.
That's
It's like, I ain't gonna lie, but I will tell you this, man. Not only is Johnny, a killer hunter, great woodsman,
Yep.
knows his stuff. I mean, it speaks volumes whenever someone like you, who's as well versed as you are, is picking stuff up from him. And like, I mean, that's when like a guy's next level.
Yeah.
When you have really good hunters that go, man, that dude is doing stuff that I'm just like, what is he like?
Yeah.
Like he's next level.
Yeah. And Johnny too. He's as far as the hunting, very like double lunger. Like I've been fortunate enough to be around both those guys.
I would love to spend some time with double lunger too.
They're super
giving.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're unselfish.
Yep.
It's like like Johnny. Like he put that bow on that deer, knowing that pretty much that's what's going to happen. And
Right.
bow kills 160-inch deer.
Yeah.
And no care in the world, like no nothing. Like we go to his camp, my deer like super pumped. The deer I killed, even though it really wasn't big, the one I killed last year,
Mhm.
he killed and Jason killed like that. He this year he put his buddy on, got a nice 10-pointer. He put bow on, killed that big buck. Like he's
Mhm.
really put 3 people on.
Good deer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I get it because I know that woods, from being with him. Like I understand, but Bo don't really know that woods. Johnny, all right, you go here. This was going to happen. Boom, 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 and it happens. His
Right.
buddy, same thing. And his people that he hunts with, they put this old guy cabin next door on a great buck this year. His buddy Greg that lives out there.
Mhm.
They set up the old guy next door, and he shot a hell of a buck. So
Right.
Johnny's like, super, yeah, go here. I see bucks here. Like he could care less if he shoots a deer.
Right.
And it's so strange because it's like, well, all right, like I want you to kill a deer. Like
Right.
But he's like, it's
And when his wall is as full as it is, you know what I mean? And and the thing is like he has supreme confidence that he's going to get it done in late season.
Yeah.
Like he's got no problem doing that.
Yeah.
Where I'm going like,
well, he said kind of too. I was talking to Mike, Bo's friend, texting him, and they were drinking and having a good old time after Bo shot that buck. I'm like, Johnny, you're next. He's like, if I kill him, my season's over. Like that wasn't upset that he didn't kill one. He's like, if I kill him now, my season's over.
mm-hmm.
Like you're a different person if that's what you think about. Like, oh, if I shoot, well, now I can't kill any, I can't hunt anymore. Like,
Right.
who does that? Like, I shoot 160 deer, but if I shoot it, I'm done hunting. It's like that's just weird. That's next level.
Yeah, it is, man. It's and that he's just and that gets to the point that I was gonna say is like, whenever you're saying like, he said you can't hang or whatever,
Yeah.
right? He was the first person when I missed that deer in Iowa. He was the first person to message me.
Yeah.
Like literally, like I mean, it happened, and he was the first person to send me a message and was like, "Hey, dude, you're on him. You got him.
Yeah.
You know where he's at. You know what he's doing."
He doesn't know defeat.
He's
He
like,
does.
keep getting it,
Yeah.
and like, and then this year when I hit and lost that deer in Missouri, again, like one of the first people to message me, like, "Hey man, I saw that. It happens to everybody.
Yeah.
You do this long enough, it's going to happen. Just get back after it. Go kill a different one, and that's just the type of person that he is, man. And that's one of the reasons why I have as much respect for him as I do, because not only is he a great hunter, but he's the type of person that you want to represent hunting, right? Like you wish that like I'm going to be honest, man. If I knew where there was a 160-inch 9-point,
You wouldn't tell that many people.
I wouldn't tell a soul. You know what I mean? I'm not even going to pretend. You know what I mean? Like unless I had a really good deer that I was chasing somewhere else, I might tell them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the case with him. Like he's got multiple big
Yeah.
deer that he knows where they're at and like whatever. So it's a little bit different, because Chad does the same thing. You know what I mean? We hunt together and it's like,
There's 150 there. You can go over there.
well, we have like, he's got, I'm exaggerating, probably not by very much, but like 100 cameras out on this one piece of big woods that we've hunted together. And he was, chasing a really big deer that was world class. And, I go down and I scout and I hang cameras with him and stuff like that and learn in this particular area. There's a spot that people hadn't hunted in probably like 4 or 5 years. And we went and hung a camera and I was like, I'm going to hunt that spot, and he was like, man, someone should really hunt down here. He's like, because every year there's a big deer, just historically from camera information. And yeah, there was 100 mid 170s that was hitting a scrape down there. And so I was hunting it and like, he basically was like, hey, I know historically where there's like a borderline 160 to 180 is going to hit this scrape in this 4-day window. You should probably be there. You know what I mean? Like, now granted, I sat it and didn't see him. You know what I mean? Like that deer hadn't showed back up on that particular camera in that area since like mid-October, but he was there,
and people like that are rare, and rare breed. And, even when I take people like my buddy Rick, we, go up to the mountains. He don't really scout, whatever. And I set him up on some deer or give him points and kills a deer. Like, I enjoy that. Mm-hmm. I haven't been able to do it that often in my life, but when it does happen, it's like, it's like it's like a little feather in my cap. Like, I had some, I had a hand in that. It's nice.
Yeah, and it's not
and
like
I wish, and like my buddy Tony, I give him information all the time. He just doesn't listen, and it's like, But I mean, Tony did kill a whopper. He could have dressed. It was 205.
Wow,
6-pointer, all deer.
Ooh, man,
Jersey, public. You know,
yeah.
He killed that one when I was in PA.
Yeah.
And I was
I mean, you do a lot of that type of stuff too, man. I mean, you and I spent a full day last year scouting property.
I do it on the old interweb all the time too. My old lady would be like, "What are you doing?" It's like people ask me questions. Hold on, in the middle of something, like because you don't leave somebody hanging. They're asking a question, like if they're reaching out, you're like, I gotta try my best to because I put myself out there before. So it's like now I'm like I feel obligated. Like I did put myself out there. So
right.
And she's like, you don't need to do that. I'm like, I actually kind of do.
Nah, yeah, same, man. It's like if anyone asks me to, to take a look at a map or something like that, I'll give them my 2 cents or whatever. I always hedge and say like, look, I don't know anything about other than what the map is showing me, and I might be completely wrong. You know what I mean? But like
disclaimer, this is just my thought.
But this is what I would do. Like this is what I would personally do. Like if I were going to go take a look, like these would be the places I would look at. And it might be completely wrong, but that would be how I would start. But you do that, man. It's like you came up to PA last off season, and you and I scouted together for a full day, multiple pieces on pieces of property.
Was a hike too.
It was, man.
Like for me to drive there, I'm like, man, I'm thinking it's like it's here. I'm like, I don't realize we were like an hour and a half from here. So I'm like, that's really not that bad. I'm like, holy, it's like
it was another 40 minutes away from my house to get there. Yeah, but you came up and scouted that whole piece with me for a full day, and with no intention of ever hunting it. And I appreciated that because, I basically scout with Chad.
Mm-hmm.
That's like my buddy that I go tear the woods apart with. And he's a really good woodsman. Like he knows his stuff, especially when you start talking about big woods and stuff like that. Like Chad is.
He's been blessed to be in that, have close access to, the mountains in Ohio, which is for me, the mountains, wherever I go, is always far.
Yeah. No, same here, man. You know what I mean?
Like, when I'm in Jersey, it's 3 hours. It's like, and there's usually like a 2-hour hike involved once I get there. And it's like, Johnny's is almost pushing 6. At least Johnny's, you're at the like top of the mountain for the most part. You're like mid-level, so you don't have to,
up and down quite as much. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the spots I'm going to be checking out this off season are all like big woods kind of settings, that are closer to home, but still it's a couple hour drive for me.
It's really, I think for me as a hunter, like evolving as a hunter, as I've gone through the years, to hunt as many different places as possible. Yeah. I think a lot of people get stuck on their little, 200 acres or 2 pieces, and they're really limited their knowledge skill set.
100%.
And you need to go see things. I mean, like we were talking about the hunting public. That's why those guys are so good at what they do. They've hunted so many different spots, in so many different states. They might not all be successful, but you're learning something. You apply this, you apply that. And
because I shouldn't say what people don't realize. What I've started to realize, just being able to hunt, different states and different types of setups. And here in PA, it's like I'll hunt mountain, I'll hunt mountaintop swamps. So I'm dealing with elevation, terrain, and flat land at different times. I'll hunt off water access and swampy kind of low-lying areas and stuff like that. And then when I travel, it's like I'm hunting, if I'm in Ohio somewhere, it's like I'm usually hunting some type of big woods and like mountain terrain or at least hill country or whatever. And then when I go further, whether it's Missouri or whatever, it's like you get it's a little flatter, it's a little bluffier or whatever. And so you don't have quite as much terrain or elevation change and stuff like that. So elevation starts to mean something a little bit different. So you're looking for like really like nuanced little like things that are going to change, like how they're going to move or whatever. But what I started to realize is that you'll almost have like micro habitats, right? And so, and I can't remember, I'm trying to think of an exact example of this, but like you'll have something that happens, say like in Iowa, for example, right? And something that you saw, like a habitat that you were hunting, terrain that you were hunting, and I might be hunting in Pennsylvania and near a swamp, but the setup almost looks like and feels like a setup that I had in Iowa, and this is what the deer did. You know what I mean? Because it's like a micro habitat. You know what I mean? It's like it's a little section of like this piece that looks and feels an awful lot like something that I saw whenever I was in Iowa, even though I was hunting like more bluffy rolling hills and stuff like that, or big like deep ravines like draws or whatever. This little setup here feels like that little corner that I was hunting. This is how the deer were using it. And so I've started seeing stuff like that to where it's like, from the macro level, like they're very different. But when I start looking at specific little setups and stuff like that, I'll start to see some overlaps in how like
your line of work. You've worked with different agencies, you work with different people, you see different things. You get really good at,
picking up small trends.
And being a good mechanic, you need to see different things, like be good at painter, carpenter, you need to, see different things, be really, well-versed carpenter. You need to have worked on everything from a shitty ass house to like a mansion, and then you're like, you can see things, almost see things before it happens. You play out and you're like, I know how this plays out. I know what he's doing now. Like scouting with you, when we've seen that rub line and those things, I've seen a couple of those rubs. I'm like, that's what he's doing. They're just coming up here because I've seen it, in Kentucky. I've seen it in New York, in PA. You're like, I've been down this. I've read this book before,
Right.
Yeah, and that's why speed scouting, when you get, you see a lot of different terrains, like speed scouting, you can cover a lot of ground fast because you're like, nope. All right, there, mark that, spend a little time there. Nope. Yes, mark this.
Right.
A lot of people are like, you're so good at it, so natural. 20 years of doing it wrong. Yeah, 20 years of doing it wrong,
Right. It's like that commercial. It's like, I know a thing or two because I've seen a thing or two.
Basically. Like when Johnny had that camera, that video, that trail camera where Bo's buck was mid-October, and that was, Johnny hunted that spot all the time. He's gathering that blowdown. Well, that little, exit rub line, that's like clockwork. As soon as I seen it, I was like, I know what that is. Old rubs, new rubs. He's coming out of his blowdown, the shoot or kill spot. And we actually had a tree right where we had that camera. I had a tree mark. So if I was there or Johnny was there the 16th of October, that deer would have been dead.
Right.
Because it's the access with how we lined it up, like this perfect tree is going to come out of there, boom, dead. And sure enough, it was like he did it,
Right. Yeah. So, well, man, we've been jamming here for hours.
Slapping the base.
Yeah, slapping the base. So I think at this point I'll go ahead and release you from jail and let you get on with your day. But before I do that, tell people where they can follow you and find out more about the Bow Hunting Fiend.
Instagram. If I ever upload my YouTube videos, there's a few on there.
Yeah. Some good scouting stuff.
Yeah. OG scouting stuff.
The OG. Nice. Well, thanks for coming on, buddy. I always like talking to you, man. And let's do some off-season scouting together again this year.
For sure.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone, for listening. All right, folks, that is a wrap for today's show. I'd like to thank all of you for listening. If you haven't yet, please head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating, and be sure to subscribe to the podcast. And hell, while you're at it, head over to YouTube and give us a sub there as well. I'd be super appreciative if you do those couple things for me. And before I shut this thing down, I need to give a big shout out to our partners who continue to help us make this podcast possible. Tethered, Exodus Outdoor Gear, Skull Brew Coffee Company, and Maven Optics. And until next time, we'll see y'all.